I still don't know why I agreed to talk about what happened in the Serranía del Inírida forest. Maybe it's because silence hasn't helped me sleep. Maybe it's because I'm tired of pretending the story ended when rescue teams showed up. The truth is, it didn't. It started on June 4th, 2024, a little after 7:15 a.m. A single-engine prop plane lifted off from a rural airstrip outside San Jose del Guaviare. On board were 4 siblings traveling to meet their aunt. 16-year-old Marisol, the closest thing the younger kids had to a parent. 13-year-old Mateo, who insisted on recording everything on his cracked Android. 9-year-old Camilla, who never stopped humming whatever song was trending on TikTok that week. And 6-year-old Lucas, who still slept with a superhero blanket. They weren't supposed to be flying that morning. The weather had been off, heavy clouds stacked like bruises above the canopy. But the pilot thought he could beat the storm. He was wrong. At 8:03 a.m., somewhere over the densest part of the Colombian Amazon, the plane's engine sputtered. Marisol later said it sounded like a metal growl, like the aircraft itself was warning them. Seconds after, they hit turbulence so violent the world seemed to snap in half. Mateo's phone flew out of his hands. The plane pitched sideways. And then there was that moment. She described it as a long, weightless breath before the jungle rose up to swallow them. What happened next should have killed all of them. The pilot didn't survive. But the kids? Somehow they crawled out of the twisted fuselage, dazed, bleeding, and stunned into the kind of silence only terror can carve. The forest around them was a humid maze of vines, ceiba trunks, and emerald shadows so thick it looked like the sun was struggling to get in. The air buzzed with insects in a constant vibrating drone. It was the kind of remote that makes you understand how big the world truly is, and how small you are inside it. The first day, they stayed near the wreckage. Marisol used what she remembered from her grandmother. Basic survival knowledge. Where to find drinkable water, what berries to avoid, how to listen for predators. She forced the younger kids to stay calm by making them tell stories about school, about their favorite games, about anything normal. But that first night, something felt wrong. Around 2:20 a.m., long after the forest had quieted into its heavy, suffocating darkness, they heard it. A snapping branch. Then another. Slow. Deliberate. As if whatever it was wanted them to know it was there. Mateo whispered that it was probably just a tapir. Maybe a monkey, but even he didn't sound convinced. Tapirs don't exhale like that. Long, ragged breaths that sounded almost human. When the sun rose, whatever had been watching them vanished. But tracks remained in the mud. Hoof prints. Deep, uneven, almost like they belonged to a deer. Except every impression was twisted as if the legs that made them bent the wrong way. They left the crash site on day 2. By day 5, they were living off river water and handfuls of guava. The forest changed around them. Less birdsong, more silence. A silence that didn't feel empty, but expectant. The kids said they'd catch glimpses of something between the trees. Something tall, too tall. A shape with antlers that didn't look like antlers at all. They were crooked, jagged, almost bone-thin. Marisol tried to keep them moving. She told herself the heat was making them hallucinate, or that fear was turning shadows into monsters. But the feeling of being followed grew stronger. On the 9th night, they came across something that made it impossible to pretend anymore. It was around 11:45 p.m. The forest was still. No wind, no insects, nothing. They smelled smoke, faint, like a dying fire, and followed it until they saw a clearing. In the center stood 3 figures, silhouettes against dim embers. They wore animal hides and masks shaped like deer skulls. The kids froze. One of the masked figures was humming, the same TikTok tune that Camilla had been humming since the crash. How could they have known it? One of them turned slowly, as if sensing the children in the dark. Marisol grabbed her siblings and pulled them back, covering Lucas's mouth as he started to cry. They didn't run, not yet. Not until they heard the same long, ragged exhale from earlier, coming from somewhere above the clearing. Whatever made that sound wasn't human. They fled, stumbling through roots and vines, not stopping until Mateo collapsed. By day 14, they were starving, Camilla wouldn't talk. Mateo kept checking behind him, flinching at shadows. Lucas wouldn't let go of Marisol's shirt. And that night, if the kids are to be believed, that was the first time they actually saw it. Marisol said it stood maybe 15 feet away, partially hidden behind a towering kapok tree. It was shaped like a deer, but not really. Too tall, too thin. Its limbs were all wrong, bending at impossible angles. And its eyes, they reflected the moonlight like something dead and hungry. It didn't charge. It just watched. The kids survived 40 days before they were found. 40 days of running, hiding, rationing, crying, and praying. The rescue team said they found them because they heard voices, children's laughter echoing through the forest. But here's the thing. The kids weren't laughing when they were found. They were unconscious, dehydrated, barely alive. Whatever those rescuers heard, it wasn't them. For months after, the siblings gave interviews, all rehearsed, all cautious. They described surviving, but never what hunted them. Never the cultists, never the creature. But the part that keeps me awake is what Marisol finally told me last month. She said the creature never chased them. It never attacked. It just followed like it was guiding them, she said when they were rescued. The last thing she remembered before blacking out was standing at the edge of the clearing, looking back into the forest, and she swears, absolutely swears, that she saw it one last time. Watching from the shadows, not hostile, not curious, waiting. She told me that the rescuers looked confused when she asked if they'd seen the creature too. They asked her what creature she meant. When she described it, they fell silent. Then one of them quietly said, "Señorita, we never saw anything like that. But something followed us for miles on the way in. We kept finding hoof prints, fresh ones." And here's what made her voice shake when she told me, "We were found on day 40, but in my notebook, I counted 41 nights, one more than the rescuers recorded. I don't know how that's possible." I asked her if she thought she miscounted. She shook her head, because she remembered the extra night too clearly. The night the creature stood closer than ever. The night it exhaled in that long, ragged way. The night it leaned down, as if whispering something she couldn't understand. A language she said didn't sound human at all.